How's it going, everyone? And this is Daniel. In this video, we are going to be talking about an important stock to watch for this week. We're also going to be going over looking at the technicals, the fundamental analysis, why this stock is really important to watch. We're also going to be going over some important economic data coming out this week. We have a lot of things coming out this week. We have interest rate decisions. We have employment data, inflation data coming out. So it's going to be pretty massive for the stock market. Not only that, we also have big companies like Apple, Meta announcing earnings, and also one of the stocks that we talk about several times in this video, which is SoFi stock. It's going to be announcing earnings this week. We're going to be looking at exactly what to expect for all these important news and updates and what could potentially happen to these stocks and the overall stock market. We're going to be covering all this important information in this video, so make sure you stay tuned. Now let's get right into it. So the company that we're going to be talking about is going to be Serina Therapeutics. So let's go over and look at some of the important headlines that we need to be watching out for this company. So as you can see over here, we have ticker symbol SER. Serina founders developed the first generation of pegylated drugs, which became the standard for delivery of protein drugs and has enabled 30 FDA-approved products that have since generated over $140 billion in cumulative sales. So that is pretty massive. So the founders of this company are actually successful, and that is really important to know about that. Later on, we're going to be looking at the fundamentals, and you get to see that, these founders definitely hold the majority of the shares of this company. So we're going to be talking about that later on in detail. But second part, the important thing to watch out for is going to be their lead product candidate, the SER-252, for advanced Parkinson's disease, is anticipated to enter clinical trials in 2025. Now, this is really important because once this headline drops, this could be massive for this company. We could see a massive spike on the company, and that is going to be an important headline to watch out for this company. Another keynote to know and to understand about the company is when you look at the fundamentals, there's only 3 million shares available for the public, so this is considered to be low float. So when we get the headline that they actually enter this clinical trial, we might see some potential spikes happening in this company. So that is going to be some of the important headlines to know about this company. But let's go over and look at exactly what to expect for this company moving forward, the purpose of it. We have the CEO. If you go over and look at their YouTube channel, it goes over and talks about some of the important things that the company is working on. I'm going to be watching one of the videos, going over exactly what is the purpose of the company, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to look at the fundamentals and some of the key price point levels we need to be watching out for this company for this upcoming week.
Our executive chairman, Sim McGill, he would be fine with me sharing this story. His mom died of Parkinson's. His mom and his dad were both clinicians, and he lived with her during those final years. And the last 3 years of her life, where her symptoms couldn't be controlled, were definitely something that he joined the mission because he didn't want to see patients like his mom not have the very best innovation to help with that quality of life issue. As you know, most drug development is focused on what they call disease-modifying therapies, right? Cures, something that will just cure the disease. Neurodegeneration doesn't work like that. It isn't that easy. And so there hasn't been a lot of focus, or as much focused on, quality of life therapeutics that dramatically improve the quality of life of a patient. So when we think about what we get excited about in the morning, it is largely that. And going back to how apomorphine was found, those investors in Shearwater and Serina, one of the large investors had a significant history of Parkinson's in their family, and multiple family members diagnosed and passed away. And so there's a whole category of disease philanthropists out there because of the impact it's had on their families. And Serina basically started looking for a Parkinson's molecule because of that connection. And this is now, of course, Serina is well-resourced with commercial translation talent and funding, and we have a full-blown discovery engine to find molecules that could benefit from a posylated long-acting approach. But that was the start of the company. In many respects, it's still a family with those kind of connections between the chemists and those early investors who, for the most part, are all still investors 13 years later. So it's a pretty extraordinary story.
So as you saw from the video and some of the important headlines that we talked about, insider ownership of this company is 67.22%. So there's a lot of successful founders, as we saw from over here, that own this company and they made a lot of profit. So they definitely see an important potential in this company. So another important thing that we talked about also is going to be the share of the float. It's 3.27 million. So there's not a lot of shares available for this company. And when you look at the price action in the past, you get some days that this company definitely has very volatile days. Even for example, this day, the stock was trading at around $6, $7, and then it spiked all the way up to $10 as a $3 move. When there's a lot of interest in this company, there's going to be a lot of movement that can happen, a lot of spikes that can happen in this stock, especially when you look at the volume over here. Those days can definitely be those days where you can see some massive moves for this company. Even this day, for example, it went from $4 to $6.24, within one day because of some headline that came out at that time. So we talked about some important headlines to watch for this company, of course. But when you look at the price action, some key price point levels to watch for this company right now is trading between $5 and $6 within this range for the past few weeks. So if you get some important headlines, this stock might pop up to the upside. And also another thing to watch out for is going to be some key support levels to watch for this company. As you can see, this trend line over here, this key price point level, this trend line is saying that we can use $5 as a support. We can use this blue line as a support. But if you also want to see some of the key price point pivot points over here, you can use $6.50 as a support, even $5 as a support for this stock if you are looking to get an entry and set a stop loss for this company and for potential target for a breakout of this range, which could potentially be above $6. So this is going to be the key price point levels to watch it. Of course, if you want some detailed information, you can definitely go to their YouTube channel, watch some of the videos that they posted, and also go over their homepage. They talk about in detail about what are some important projects that they're working on. That can definitely give you more information about this company. But now let's talk about what to expect for the overall stock market. Let's look at the economic data coming out for this upcoming week. On Monday, we don't have any kind of economic data coming out, but on Tuesday, as you can see over here, we have some important data coming out. We have retail inventories, US trade balance, we have S&P K's home price index, consumer confidence, job openings, information coming out. And the most important thing is, of course, on Wednesday, July 30, we have the FOMC interest rate decision. This is really important to watch. We have the president, applying a lot of pressures for Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. I think I saw a video on the news. He even went to the Fed, they're building a lot of buildings over there. And then he basically joked around that, hey, we can get along if he basically lowered interest rates, Jerome Powell. So I don't think he's going to do it though. But anyway, we'll see what's going to be happening. Of course, it's a massive day for the whole stock market, depending upon what they decide to do. We also have on Thursday, we have inflation data, core PCE data year over year is going to be coming out. This is also really important to watch out for. This is a market mover. And August 1st, we have employment report data, unemployment rate. And also we have, some of the tariff news that can come out on Friday, depending upon what the president is going to be doing with the tariffs. This is going to be really pivotal information to watch out for the overall stock market. So there's a lot of things coming up for this week, and it's going to be very volatile. So definitely be on the lookout for that. In addition to that, we have big companies like Apple, Amazon, trillion-dollar companies announcing earnings. We have Meta, Microsoft, trillion-dollar companies announcing earnings this upcoming week. Now, this is going to be big, massive market movers. Even if this companies, even one of these companies would drops at 5%, it goes up 5%, it could have a significant move on the S&P 500. So that is going to be an important thing to watch out for. And also, we have SoFi stock, one of the stocks that we talk about several times in this company, about this company in this channel. They're going to be announcing earnings before the market open on Tuesday. We also have Boeing announcing earnings. That's going to be important to watch out for also. And we have some of these new up-and-coming brokers like Robinhood. Robinhood has been performing very well. It hit like about $100. They've been introducing a lot of different features. You can gamble on a Robinhood. You got the crypto. You can bet on the presidency and things like that. They've been adding a lot of features, and investors are definitely liking that. And you can definitely see why the stock price is breaking out continuously making all-time highs. We'll see what they have to say, if they have any kind of like new innovative way for them to attract more customers to their platform. It's going to be really interesting to watch out for. We also have Reddit, which recently went IPO'd a few months past. Is definitely a company to watch out for. Is a company that can definitely move significantly. And we also have some energy companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, announcing earnings. So be on the lookout for that. But let's go over and look at some of the important things, some of the companies that we talked about in the past, which is SoFi announcing earnings. Unfortunately for SoFi, during earnings time, the company does not perform. Even though they beat their earnings, the company usually tends to like go a little bit lower, after they announce their earnings a little bit, and then maybe have a continuation. In the past, we've seen these kind of price action. Right now, it's definitely performing very well, making new 52-week high back-to-back several weeks. Right now we're sitting at a 52-week high of around $21.58, $22.74. That is a 52-week high for this company. So we'll see if they can break it after they announce their earnings. But I doubted the probability of them actually selling off after earnings, since we're kind of like a little bit to the upside. We might have a slight pullback for people to get in and buy more shares if they see value in this company. But overall, when you look at the history, the stock definitely, even if they beat earnings, the stock definitely be dropping a little bit to the downside if you look at the history. But you never know. My surprises might hit like $24, so you never know. But earnings is definitely a gamble. But that's what to expect for SoFi stock. But let me know in the comments below what do you think about all these companies. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell. If you need more information about Serina Therapeutics, go to their website and check them out too.